Welcome to the Family First Retirement Podcast with George Politarhos. For more information, visit betrayawealth.com. Now, let's get to the show.
A lot to get to here this weekend. Always thinking about your income and retirement risk in your portfolio. Always talking about taxes. But first, recently, you had a client event at Blue Rocks. You were telling me off there about a great conversation you had talking about Roth conversions and how there are some misconceptions on how a Roth could benefit your overall portfolio.
I won't use her real name, obviously, because I know she's listening to us today. Sure. But Cheryl came and she brought her friend with her to the game. And she walked in. I'm like, so good to see you. Gave her a hug and a kiss. And she goes, I was going to call you because I know I can call you, but I listened to the radio, George, on WDEL, and we talk about Roth conversions. I'm thinking, should I, I have this bucket of cash, which is qualified money. Qualified money, folks, is a 401k, a thrift savings plan, a 403b, an IRA type money. $400,000. I thought I start doing $100,000 a year as a Roth conversion. What do you think? Makes sense? And the answer was absolutely not. You just don't do something haphazardly, right, folks? There has to be a reason behind what we need to do. Mm-hmm. So Ernie Callias, our in-house CPA, was there, my business partner, and we sat there and we talked about things. So we're going to have an appointment coming up where I need to see your tax return. We don't want to spike into the next category. A, how are we going to fund the taxes on this? And maybe not $100,000, maybe we're going to do $40,000 a year. Gradually, but it has to make sense. Folks, when you work with me and my team here at Betraya Wealth, when we sit down, we do the Family First Retirement Plan, we're going to look at what your wants are, your needs, your desires, what your plan for the future is, what your dreams are. And we're going to start to put a plan together to fit what your wants and needs are. But it has to make sense going forward, not because it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to Cheryl, that's what we're doing next. We're looking at tax returns. We're looking at where we can go, how we're going to fund the tax obligation on this, how it's going to make sense for Cheryl and her legacy planning for her family. Call us at 302-330-2166. And as I told Cheryl, obviously, once you're part of our big, fat Greek family, I said, why are you waiting tonight to the baseball game? Why don't you call me or come into the office? We'll take care of it right away for you.
What was her reasoning?
You know who you are.
Why? Yeah, why?
I didn't want to bother you, George. I'm like, you know what? That's never a bother. That's why I have an open door mentality here at 501 Silverside Road. You know what, George? I want to have a cup of coffee. Come on in. That's what having a family's about. You know, it's funny, Mark. I have my brother and my sisters, Angie, who works for me. And I'm one of five. I have Barbara, Polly, Angie, and my brother, Pete. I was never raised that if I went to my cousin's house, you have to call to go over. If I go to my brother's house, I don't have to call and say, oh, I'm driving by. Do you mind if I stop over? Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way, the way we were raised. Mm-hmm. You go and you just walk in the door. That's the same way here at Betraya. You're driving by, just come in. That's the way we were raised to treat each other and treat others. And that's the mentality of my business, Betraya Wealth, to our clients and family members.
Yeah.
You're always welcome here. You don't need to call. You don't need to ask. Come over. Let's sit down. Let's have a good cup of coffee, and we can go forward from there. 302-330-2166. You can call or text us, and let's start the process together.
If you're working with somebody and they're not having these conversations about a Roth conversion, if they're not talking about your tax strategy, maybe it's time to reach out to George and the team, take advantage of his no-cost, no-obligation second opinion service.
You know, Mark, you just said that, and I just put my hand up like I was in school again, first grade. Mrs. Kelly yelling at me about something. It's funny you say that, and I truly mean that. People we talked about last week, new to Delaware, Steve and Melissa, and they listened to the radio show. They made an appointment. They came in. And we started going through the process, where you're at, what your goals are, what your objectives are, how we're going to move forward, all your wants, dreams, and desires. They came back 10 days later, and we had the plan put together, some ideas, thoughts, and Steve's answer was, so what's next? How do we go forward? I said, well, if it makes sense. He goes, I've been with this big box company, George, 10 years. I have never had this conversation. I had never had them sit down and ask me, what do you want to do? It goes back to being, I'm smarter than you are, so therefore I know what I'm doing, you don't.
Yeah.
That's not the way you're treated here at Betraya Wealth. You just talked about that, Mark, and I'm a terrible storyteller. I have a hard time with telling the stories on the radio. Mark tells me all the time, you need to tell more stories. Mm-hmm. But when he said that, I thought, how the heck does this company stay in business?
Yeah.
if they don't treat people the way they're supposed to be treated. Because it's real simple. When you come to Portrayal Wealth, folks, I'm treating you, my team's treating you the way I expect to be treated by you, how I want to be treated. And that's what family's about. 302-330-2166.
All right, so let's talk about it, building income to and through retirement. And most people know that the longer you delay Social Security, the bigger the check may be. But only about 10% of adults wait until the age of 70. Now, George, this may be starting to change as more retirees are drawing from their 401ks first so they can hold off on that Social Security. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons, maybe some of the risks of that strategy, drawing from your 401k to help delay your Social Security. Is the trade-off worth it?
You know, we can talk about this on either side of the aisle, Mark. We can look at it from both sides. You worked really hard, folks. You've accumulated great wealth. You've done a great job with your 401k, your thrift savings plan, your 403b, 457s, your savings. And you did really hard and really well for what purpose? Because we always say you have 90,000, you worked 90,000 hours to get to this point, which is about 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. You retire. You have another 30 of your life, another 90,000 hours going forward. That money you worked hard has to last for 90,000 hours, 30 or 40 years in retirement. So when people say, I'm going to hold off Social Security to age 70, and I'm going to use my retirement, my money to get this, I kind of wonder why you wouldn't use their money. Because I love going to the local furniture store. And here's a plug for Johnny Janowski's, which is a local furniture store in the Delaware, New Jersey, PA area. We love the place. Leslie loves the place. And we do a room at the house at a time. We do our dining room set, and then we do our bedrooms, and we take our time. And we use the Johnny Janowski credit card.
Okay.
So it's at 0% interest if you pay it off in the time, 18 months, whatever it is. Well, we have the money in the bank. We can write a check for the $5,000 room, whatever the room is. Or I can use Johnny Janowski's credit card and use their money instead of my money. So 0% interest, I take the total owed, divide by 2 months less than that, and that's what's automatically paid off. Bada bing, bada boom. It's their money, not mine. So with that mentality, why would I use my money, my 401k, for my retirement to wait for that Social Security to increase by 8% to age 70? It doesn't make sense to me. I like using other people's money, Johnny Janowski's money, than my money.
Yep.
So I'd rather be taking my Social Security when I'm done working, or at least full retirement age. Even if you don't need the money, you can use it to savings, investments. We can do better than 8% and let it grow. But why are some reasons you may want to do that? Well, let's go to the other side of the aisle. You know, age difference between me and Leslie. And I'm going to use an example. It's definitely not true. But if I was older than Leslie, and let's say I was 8 years older, 8 years older than Leslie. First off, gentlemen, we know that our wives will outlive us, right? If we're the same age, 6 to 9 year national average in that ballpark. So if I'm older like that and I turn it on, I wait to 70, that way my wife, Leslie, gets a bigger increase when I die, right? And she has longer to take advantage. I can see that. I just don't RMDs. I can start playing for RMDs maybe. You know, we do a great report, Mark. It's a tax card for people looking at this retirement, how we're going to benefit from taxes, because they have required minimum distributions in the future. How can we do little conversions to Roth? How can that benefit me? So maybe I use Social Security and help fund that. But how much money I can save if I take RMDs now or start doing Roth conversions, stuff like that. So I can see a tax advantage a little bit, but I really want that money in my accounts to grow bigger. Let's have that first world problem together. If you're worried about that first world problem, give me a call, 302-330-2166, and let's talk about how we can work around that IRMA problem down the road, taxation on Social Security down the road. But I truly believe for most of us, we want to use their money, not our money. Let's take advantage of the government. We don't know about Social Security in the future.
Yeah.
2033, 2034, big question mark. You know, there's a possibility, a high probability of a reduction, about 24% across the board. Let's take as much of that as possible now to benefit from this. But give us a call, 302-330-2166, and we can talk about the pros and cons of both for your situation and see how it fits in the Family First Retirement Plan.
You mentioned something there a couple of seconds ago about you offer a tax card for the families you serve. All right, this is a Mark Owens question. We say it every week here on Family First Retirement. If you hear anything on this show you need some clarity on, if George mentioned something about Social Security or an annuity or a tax strategy, and you're like, all right, George, I need a little more in depth, you can call, you can text 302-330-2166. I just shot you a text and it just said tax card. Is that like a physical card that you build out for somebody, or is that just like a code for a part of a tax strategy?
It's part of a tax strategy, but I'm a very visual person, Mark. Yeah. You know, my brother Pete has a Zach's Hamburgers up here in Delaware County. Does a great job. I've always been envious of my brother. He can see an empty room building and picture how it works, how it's going to flow for his business just by looking at things.
It's like a beautiful mind where you see all the charts in the graph and numbers.
Great analogy. Yes. That's not me. I am very touchy-feeling. I have to see the things in front of me, hold them, touch them, smell them. The tax card I put together, and we use this a lot of times about required minimum distributions, Roth conversions. We put in the data of what we have, and we show if we do nothing, when you hit the required minimum distribution age, which is RMD between 73 and 75, how much money you're going to have to take out every year for taxes over the next 30 years. And then we say, what's the difference? You know, people take out required minimum distributions and they don't need the money. They have to take the money out by law, but they don't need the money. So what happens most of the time? Well, they reinvest it, and they reinvest it into a Charles Schwab Fidelity managed funds, which does what? Because it's non-qualified, so it burns off tax obligations every year. So how much tax does that do? And we break it down. We did a few weeks ago, Mark, and I want to say for the client, it was $500,000. I want to say over 30 years, it generated something like $1.3 million in future tax obligation. But if we did the Roth conversions, okay, for this tax card, the required minimum distributions are zero because you won't have them. Your reinvestment problems are zero, right? Because we use an IUL or something to take care of that. Your IRMA, we didn't talk about IRMA a second ago. IRMA is the penalty on Medicare Part B because you have a first world problem. You have too much income, so you get a penalty on your IRMA Part B and Part D of Medicare. That's minimized because there's less income coming out. But the catch is that you pay more money today on taxes. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was $160,000 was our tax obligation for doing the Roth conversions.
Okay.
It was a $1 million difference in taxes. And that's what the tax card shows you. But I give it to you. I want you to see what it looks like. So maybe it makes sense to do those conversions. Folks, I love our country. The reason we started Bets for Vets was for our soldiers, our police, our firemen, the true heroes of this country. It's a fantastic country. If you don't think it's the greatest country in the world, wake up and smell the coffee. You can leave. I'll pay for your airline ticket out. But I hate the way the country spends my money. The government spends my tax dollars. This is a way to control your money in your pocket, plus your tax dollar money from going to places that you may not want to go to. We spoke a few weeks ago about legacy planning. Maybe we do the RMDs. We start doing the Roth conversions to help with our legacy planning. My church, St. George in Philadelphia, could really use extra money. Yeah. The local synagogue could really use some extra money from us. The charity Bets for Vets could really use some extra money, or the Boys Club of America, or whatever it may be. Maybe we can start doing more of that. But give us a call, 302-330-2166, and let's see how that card looks. Let's see how it fits into your Family First retirement plan. And let's see if it makes sense to start doing that process today.
Is it fair to say that your tax card, exclusively from the team at the Betrayal Wealth Group, it's like a blueprint to help outline your overall tax strategy, including RMDs, Social Security, IRMA, and it is. You physically put it, because I'm like you, I have to see it. I have to write stuff down. Because I've told you before, like, I host a lot of events, and they'll give me scripts and outlines, but I will rewrite it in my own words just so I can see it. So is it safe to say that your tax card is a physical piece of paper with your own personalized tax strategy?
Absolutely, Mark. It goes in with our Family First retirement plan. It's a separate segment in that report we give you and go over with you in depth. Because, you know, people can give you charts and this and that, and it's all French or it's all Greek. and you don't have a darn idea what they're talking about. It looks really nice. We're going to go through it in depth together, showing this step and how it affects the bottom. I can guarantee you today that it's much more, but we do that with you, is 10 times more than your current advisor or the firm has done for you in the last 10 years.
All right.
I can guarantee it.
As we put a bow on this conversation about Social Security and taxes, you mentioned that unless Congress can get their act together about what's going to happen to our benefits over the next 5-6 years, is the conversation different with a 55-year-old that comes in to put a plan together versus what a 65-year-old is working on right now?
Yes and no to a certain degree. Certain aspects of it are different. The 65-year-olds obviously are closer to the end of the race than the 55 years old are. But that plan is customized. I don't have a box plan for a 65-year-old. I don't believe in having a 65-year-old shoehorn, per se, that everyone 65 is in this plan. I don't have it one for 55. I don't have them. So when we come in, we're looking at the total package and what you have to offer and what we have to work with. I think it's fair to assume, Mark, that a 65-year-old from 123 Anywhere Street and the 65-year-old from 234 Anywhere Street have different lifestyles. So to put them in a certain category does no one justice, except for the advisor who doesn't want to get off their backside and actually do their job.
Right.
That's the way at Politarhos Wealth. Our way is to build that plan when you come in. We ask questions. I need answers. I need to know what we're looking at. Maybe I have a special needs. I need to take care of a child. I need to take care of parents. I need to take care of. Maybe I have no children. I want to travel the world. We've done a story I know in the past about living on a cruise boat.
Oh, yeah.
For 9 months a year. People live on cruise boats because it's less expensive and more life fun. I couldn't do that, but that's why we make vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Having the plan fit your needs is what this is about. A 65-year-old will have a different conversation overall than a 55-year-old or a 45-year-old. Honestly, I look at 45-year-olds and I say, when we talk with them, let's not assume anything about Social Security. Everything we do today is to get a personalized pension started. Working with your 401k will get a personalized pension because you're not going to have Social Security. I think it's always better to say the glass is half empty and be happily surprised it's full than to assume the glass is full and then find it to be half empty.
Right.
Let's look at the worst case scenario. And one of two things is going to happen. If we look at the worst case scenario and it happens, okay, we planned for it. We're still ahead of the game. Or the government fixes their attitude. They fix Social Security, and we're in a better place than we started. Oh. Bing, bing, bing. The fireworks are going off because we're in a better place and we're ahead of the game. I kind of like the idea of bang, 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 the fireworks going off.
Yeah.
But we know the government can't trust anybody there. That could be a whole show by itself off there after dark.
Portraya After Dark. That's our other podcast.
Yeah, this is the things we have to look at. And that's my job, to look at that. I want you to be happy. My job is to look at reality. I'm planning for the worst case scenario so you can have the best possible results at the end. Call me at 302-330-2166 or go to Portraya Wealth, P-A-T-R-I-A wealth.com. Let's schedule a time to talk and see how we can help you be in a better line.
Insurance and annuities offered through George A. Politarhos, Delaware Insurance License Number 1373121. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties.